Hello, good morning, everybody, and thank you for joining this beautiful Friday. It's really sunny out here in London. I know there's people from everywhere joining, but just so you know, it's actually sunny in London, which is a beautiful thing. Today, we have around 35 to 40 minutes to share this session. Hopefully, the material that we prepared is useful for everybody. I'm going to share my screen just so we can follow a little bit the thoughts on a little presentation that we prepared. There you go. So today with us, we have Marc Talbot, former commercial operations director for a company called Acuris. It's a company in the financial services sector. And perhaps we can start from introducing Marc to the conversation. So maybe Marc, you wanna tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey to this point?
Sure, thanks, Hideki. Good morning, everyone. Yes, as Hideki said, I spent just over 20 years working at Acuris. The bulk of my time there was in the relationship management team, which is effectively a customer success function. And then the last couple of years, I moved into a commercial ops role. Acuris is a subscription-based business covering financial information and really focused on customer retention. And obviously, part of the business relies heavily on good functioning CRM system. And my last couple of years in the commercial ops roles really spent rolling out a series of CRM implementations for the group and the acquired businesses that Acuris had bought over the years. And during that period, we made obviously quite a few mistakes and lessons to be learned, and hence really why I'm here today to really help share some of my experiences with everyone, and hopefully you won't make the same mistakes we did.
Thank you, Marc. In terms of size of the operations and the business, can you give us a bit of an idea, just so we put it in context?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, so Acuris, when I was there, I've left now, by the way, we had around 1,500 employees altogether. I think there was around 350 or so people in the commercial team who were using the CRM systems. And within my team, there was about 90 people focused on customer success. So quite a large amount of users of the system. And the business was actually acquired by Ion in 2019, I think it was, for 1.35 billion. So yeah, pretty reasonable sized business with lots of customers, thousands of end users, and hundreds of individual people who would be using the CRM.
Yeah, it's very much your typical financial services type of business, right? Thank you, Marc, for that introduction. For those who don't know me, my name is Hideki. I'm the lead CRM and customer experience consultant at redk. I also lecture at University of Cambridge, so happy to share that knowledge there as well. I started working with Marc a few years ago in the CRM Transformation project at Acuris. And what we put together today is not that specific to the business, it's more overall learnings about the experience. I've been in this field for 15 years, and Marc been in a commercial and customer relationship management position also for 15 years. So combined, from the two perspectives, the systems integrator, the consulting perspective, and the client perspective, I think there's a lot of things we can share that hopefully are going to be good for everybody. For those who don't know our brand, redk, we help companies to become digitally mature in the customer experience space, to become customer-centric and to optimize operations. And for this, we have a methodology called CRM Transformation, or CRM Transformation Center. And we work both at a business concept level as well as the technology implementation level. We work with all the leading technologies in the marketplace. So that's just a brief introduction about ourselves. So what things did we learn? We wanted to actually take things that were, we were able to extrapolate to any industry, any sector, that are more about the strategy of implementing CRM, both from an organizational perspective and from a technology perspective, right? And we broke it down into 5 core elements that in one way or another, they are all correlated. So the first element that we see often is the approach to projects, the CRM projects. They are often approached as software, the purchases of software, right? And here what we find is that there is a common set of practices because of the approach that CRM is a piece of software that it needs to be implemented. A lot of the activities around implementing CRM are very much focused on what does the software offer, right? And how much functionality we need to buy to get our money's worth, right? What can you share in this regard, Marc? What is your experience when working with the different teams, the stakeholders?
Yeah, just to touch on your point about the software, I think lots of people just automatically assume that Salesforce is the best system to use and you have to have it. But I think you're absolutely right. There needs to be a lot more focus on on the processes that you go through and how you're going to use the system rather than just buying the brand leader. A well implemented version of a different CRM system will be far more beneficial than a Salesforce instance that isn't used properly. And I think it's important to get that knowledge across to the end users, because in my experience people just assume that if you don't have Salesforce your system isn't particularly good, but it's really how you configure it and really how you use it is absolutely key before you even get the project off the ground.
Yeah. So this is quite interesting because we get customers, when they come to us, they get fixated into what functionality is there in the software that and the pieces of software that are out there in the marketplace, and it's like they have a Christmas wish list that they have to check. And actually a lot of the CRM processes is more about ownership, understanding really what processes are, where does the data come in, what makes the process inefficient, what delivers value to the business, to the user, to the customer, right? As an output of that. So when we're looking at acquiring CRM software to be implemented, we should maintain a focus on understanding what are the business outputs that we want to achieve, and then use that as a guide to then break it down into, okay, what are the functional capabilities that we need to implement. And functional capabilities often mean that you're going to be able to deliver the same result in just one way or another, because at the end of the day, you have amazing software out there. They all do similar things. They all are able to deliver on that, right? So in this element, what becomes really important is leadership and sponsorship of the CRM initiatives, right? So to translate this into like a more cohesive long-term project, if you want to achieve an ROI over time, you need a framework of governance for the delivery of this type of thing, right? So like Marc said, it's not necessarily about having the best software. It's understanding how that suits the business, right? Mm-hmm. So we often talked about governance. How did governance, in your experience, how did governance help the organization deliver this very complex set of CRM projects that you had?
I mean, I don't think the governance was used before we met redk, to be honest. It was something that I would say some of our first conversations you talked about, and it was, oh wow, okay, yeah, maybe we should do that. Focus a bit more on the governance side of things. I think it was key for us to keep the whole project on track. Starting from the very top, the executive team, if their weight is behind the project, then it's going to get done, right? And if they're constantly asking for updates, then as you move down the chain, then the people who are actually working on the project are a lot more focused, a lot more committed, and going down to the daily cadence of the development team. Things get done at a regular basis, and then you can move back up and inform the senior stakeholders of what's going on. So that structure is really key to getting it done, and not just going live, but the post development as well.
Yeah, is to maintain the momentum of the CRM initiatives. Projects often, when they are being delivered, they have a lot of sponsorship, but then after they go live, people forget,
Absolutely.
that they need that same level of sponsorship. I think governance is also very important because we have to take the business as usual, the operational team's feedback to build the solutions, but we always have to align with the vision of the executive team in terms of delivering those business outputs. So there is often in CRM implementations or ongoing CRM usage, there is a disconnect between these two. So having a proper structure framework allows us to maintain that level of alignment and commitment to the projects, right?
Yeah. So, and these projects aren't, they're not cheap. They're expensive projects. They take a lot of time and effort to be done properly, and that's why you need the governance the whole way through the process.
Yeah.
Really key.
This is why we say that CRM projects are transformational, right? They are a subset of digital transformation. If we're not able to take that, executive support, executive vision to align it with the tactical execution is always going to be disconnected from that, right? And the tactical execution should create the capabilities that the team needs in order to fulfill that business strategy. And those capabilities are formed out of three elements: people, processes, and technology, right? So technology is usually the thing that people focus mostly on because they're buying something new, right? They're buying a new software. It's going to be exciting to be using something that is going to be amazingly better, etc. But there's a huge element of process rethinking the processes, right? And retraining people to do things differently. What can you recall in terms of processes and people apart from the technology?
Yes, I think one of the things you really stressed when we first met each other. I mean, I was focused on changing the CRM and possibly adding some extra functionality, some tick boxes here and new tabs there. And I think the approach, the redk approach was right. Almost rip that up and start from scratch. What do you want this whole project to achieve? And I think most people would like an automated system whereby the system is doing a lot of the work for you. It's not just a data entry tool, which some CRM systems really turn into. It's a tool that can almost do your job for you as a commercial person. You want to help manage the sales pipeline and generate a to-do list. So if you get the processes right of making a sale, managing your customers and processing contracts, then the whole system can work in harmony with the rest of the business. So I think the technology can do it. Then perfect. But it's that process, it's getting that right. And the end users have to make a little bit of a change as well. So you can adapt the software a little bit and adapt the people and their way of working. And as long as it's not a major change for both parties, then you should be able to find a really, really effective solution.
Yeah. So we're talking about capabilities are made of the combination of these three elements, and they all, like you say, they need to live in harmony, right?
Yeah.
Cool. So the second thing that we were talking about when we were reviewing this was really we need to understand the business, the processes, but what really delivers value ultimately to the business is whether the customers are happy or not. So customers should always be at the center of the operational design before you implement CRM. So you really need to have a clear idea of what value means to the end customers, right? Yeah. So what often goes wrong is, we're just modernizing the technology, but inheriting an old process as opposed to reinventing the process, right? And I think most companies can probably relate to this idea of having very isolated departments. Marketing has data. The data comes in spreadsheets, CSV files. They are not connected to the CRM systems, to the transactional systems, to the backend systems. So this lack of cohesiveness in the process and the stream flow of data breaks the process down significantly, right? How much data problems, challenges did you experiment for all those years?
Hideki, I had enormous amount of data challenges. I just want to mention one thing before we talk a little bit about data, and that's how this project should obviously, it benefits the commercial team, right? You're hoping to get a more efficient, streamlined way of working, but it should really benefit the customer. It should make it a lot easier to do business with your organization. If you've got a well designed, functioning CRM system, the customer should benefit. It should be easier to get quotes sent to you. It should be easier to sign documents. It should be easier to pull up information on the account in general. And if the customer is not going to benefit from your newly designed CRM, then it may be worth rethinking it, and how can they actually benefit? How can it be easier to do business with you? But also, to touch on that, that's where the data comes in. You need to have good data so that you can get those insights, and the customers ask for information on their account. Your data is accurate. So what we found over the years is that the sales teams are often the first to complain about poor data in the system, but it's generally because the sales team have put bad data in the first place. Not the sort of thing you can start pointing the finger at, and that's where the governance comes in, and your data cleaning. But when you are designing a new system, get that data right in the beginning is absolutely key. And one of the first things you said to me was, Mark, the data is going to take a lot of work. And I was, yeah, I get it, Hideki, yeah, it will. But it was just way more than I could ever have dreamed of. So it's getting that clean data in the system, making sure that the company names are standardized, you've got the right point of contact, that entries are as standardized as possible, so you don't have typos in countries. And then once it's in there, it's policing it. So it's worth thinking about maybe generating a sugar police team or CRM police that can maintain the integrity of the data once it's in the system, stopping duplications from occurring, and make sure people are putting it in the right place.
Data is the fundamental thing that we need to action interactions with customers, right? Whether they are human or automated. So if a person doesn't have access to the right data, they cannot quickly respond to a customer, engage with a customer. They're spending a lot of time thinking about, where's the data? Is the data right? Is the data correct, or does it sound like it might be wrong because I know the account? But from the automation perspective, if you don't have the right data, the automation is just not going to work. So particularly in the field of marketing automation, you need to have exact data coming almost in real time from the transactional systems, right? So the problem, the challenge with this is that we often don't understand. We learn to live with bad data, and we don't understand the impact it has on the customer, right? So when we build these systems, like you said in the beginning, it should make it a lot easier for customers to engage with us, right? So there's an element of really understanding what is the customer journey, where in the customer journey can we actually implement capabilities that help us deliver a better customer experience, both based on data, automations, or human interactions. And then we're talking about three types of data. And this is, I think, something that brands often forget to understand, that data comes from everywhere and is an alive animal, right? In the case of financial services, there is a lot of data around transactions, right? How much you're buying, what is your contract, what is your subscription, what is the structure of your contract, etc. So you have operational data, so all the data that is collected on interactions with customers. You have transactional data, so from the finance systems, back office systems, e-commerce, etc. And then you have aggregated data, which is emails, non-structured data, social media, information that we can find on the internet, etc., etc. All of it is required to create a comprehensive view of the customer, right, and be able to automate that. Is a common theme around the projects we deliver that data is a challenge. So we often suggest customers to give this a lot of thought, right?
Yeah.
When we look at delivering value, we often think about the employee experience, how they make use of that data to deliver a better customer experience. Use the data to deliver executive value through accurate business insights, and then how the customer experience is improved by having the right data and the right functionality. These are three elements of design thinking when it comes to delivering value from the systems, right? So we've come up with a maturity curve that helps us differentiate. Can you ideally, all companies want to be at this, mature stage where you're optical and analytical, but you often, what's your experience with systems that are not fully integrated? Because that's the ideal for anybody, right?
Yeah, it just makes collecting data and information a lot harder. And in my experience, I've seen lots of situations where you have these different data sets, and the company names are different in each one. So in order to pull up this holistic view of a customer of yours, you've got to look at 5 different systems and remap the company names. Yeah, it might be PLC or non-PLC. It might have LTD instead of limited. So trying to generate these, I think, unique identifiers is absolutely key. So you can link all that systems and data together. So you have this nirvana of a 360-degree view of your customer. But it's very hard to get there if your data is siloed and you have different strategies and different naming conventions for each portion of data.
Yeah. So CRM.
I'll just say mapping data is not a fun exercise, believe me. I've done it many times and it's not a nice experience. So if you can start at a standardized level at the beginning, then that'll make your life a lot easier in the long run.
So the core capability or the core, if you don't have a strong and robust data strategy, you will not be able to deliver a good customer experience, because human interactions and automations, they only work well if you have the right data in front of you, So that's one of the learnings. And then our favorite one, and probably the one that is mostly under misunderstood, or people don't pay a lot of attention to this, is user adoption, right? So I'm sure you have a lot to share in this regard.
Well, where to begin? So I think obviously getting the buy-in from the users to actually use the system is crucial. In my experience, so many end users would stick on their spreadsheets and say, well, I've got my spreadsheet, I don't quite trust the CRM yet, so I'm going to keep everything on my Excel, and then I'll put some bits into the CRM. But I think that there's that trust element. That's where the clean data comes in. But I think from my experience, getting the commercial managers on board is key, because they will start to run their reports from the system and say to the end users, look guys, this is your KPIs and it's on the system, and if you've not put it in there, then as far as I'm concerned, it's not happened. So there's a bit of a stick to beat people with, to get them to use it. And the carrot is saying, well, look, this is going to really help your whole process. If you spend an extra 5-10 minutes at the start of of this new sale that you're working on, then it'll save you 20-30 minutes sort of further down the line. And then it's just getting getting them, I guess, listening to the end users. And we'll talk about this a bit later on about the development work. But when the users have suggestions on how to make improvements, you're reacting, you're listening to them, and really helping them to refine and reshape the system. But it takes time, and training takes a lot of time. I'd certainly suggest getting into videos and champions, if you can find champions in your organization who can sort of really push it. So the end users who can sort of share best practice around the business is really important as well.
Yeah, the resources that you need to be making available to the user base. I always say this is an area of the project that once you persistent in delivering training. So training only gives people the certainty that the system works right, shows people that the system is being designed with a lot of thought behind, and that there's a huge investment behind it. But things are as good as the people that use them, right? So it's very important that as you go live, you maintain the alignment of the evolution of the system in line with the evolution of the business. And I think this is where things start going wrong. A lot of companies put a lot of effort at the beginning into launching the CRM. And over the next few months, they do a little bit of training, a little bit of improvement. By the end of the second year, everybody forgot how important what the CRM applications were, or the CRM ecosystem is. And then the business is working in a way, but the application hasn't evolved in line with the business, right? So the idea here is to make sure that you evolve the CRM in line with the business evolution, so you're able to maintain always the delivery of value to the end users. So the acceptance of the applications are high, right? There's also a lot of theory around, how to drive that transformational effort. You have to create a lot of resources. You have to have a way to collect feedback, a way to embed that feedback into the design of the product. You have to deliver training. You have to support training. You have to and this needs to be consistently communicated to the organization, right? So that's extremely important. This is where we actually talk about a concept in our methodology called CRM by design, where we not only push software onto the users based on, we're not just migrating old software into new software or old processes into new software. We're actually redesigning the way companies can use technology. So users are heavily impacted by good user experience design, good usability, understanding what the function and the role is, and what is their mission in those functions that they need to fulfill. So there's a little bit of methodology behind that. And then there is I put this title for this slide, there is no I in CRM, because one of the things that I've seen happen, is the amount of people and the expertise required to deliver these complex projects. From your experience, what sort of people participate in these projects? Because we often think about the CRM manager as one person, right?
Yeah. I mean, people often think that there's a couple of people in IT and one person who's kind of your CRM manager, but it goes a lot further than that. And I certainly think a lot of these groups you mentioned here are absolutely key. You've got obviously the business stakeholders, so usually that's the senior commercial leaders. You've got your executive team who really want to see a real change in the business. The IT guys who often will sort of build and maintain the system for you. You've got your product team. So that depends on what sort of business you work in, but if you're collecting feedback from your customers, the product guys will want to hear that. So are they involved in this conversation? Are the mechanism set up so that the product team can get feedback from your customer base? You've got your finance team who want to see what they're paying for, and again, if your system is linked in with your financing system, the invoice generation. So lots of different groups in the business, but outside of the traditional kind of the marketing and sales teams, commercial teams. It can really encompass most parts of the business.
Yeah, from the consulting perspective, when we go to a project, we have to work at different levels. We work, in my case, I get involved as a senior consultant to drive that vision, to align the project, the technology strategy with the business strategy. So there's a lot of two components in terms of technology, creating the digital ecosystem that will support the strategy, but also CRM best practices, both in terms of organizational change, software development, change management, process redesign, the best use of automation, machine learning, AI, all the platforms that are now available in modern CRM platforms, all the technology. But then when delivering the project, you also need a way to deliver with speed and quality. So new practices around DevOps and, utilizing Scrum by the book to make sure that we're able to deliver that. We'll talk about that a little bit later. Understanding the products that you sell as well as the product you're implementing. So how does the company make money, and how do we leverage automation to make sure that we make money? The user experience and of course the customer experience. And what we mean by this is these projects don't require one. Companies cannot say to one person, here, off you go, you take care of this project. It's a cohesive effort that requires everybody to provide feedback and input and be committed to delivering on that project, right? So this is part of our where we think there is something that differentiates the way we approach projects, because there's a massive human element on delivering these massive projects. These massive projects are delivered by talented people. So it's people with a lot of skills that are committed to work together on delivering, a great project. When we talk about talented people, it's both, obviously, from the customer and from us, from a consulting side. If we're not able to break through the barriers of, a customer provider, if we don't become one single team, it's very difficult to deliver this. Can you recall your experience in this regard?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I work with lots of talented people. Obviously, the redk team are very talented, Hideki. But yeah, you're right, they're human, and all these people pulling together, so focused on maybe going live at a particular date that you forget people still need a break, have a holiday, or only working a certain number of hours in the day. So it takes time to get these things done. But I think when you've got everyone's really bought into this, the successful delivery, then the project would potentially be a success, as long as you're all working really well together and really closely.
Yeah. So this is we give a lot of emphasis to this, because at the end of the day, great projects require people to work together. So there is a huge component of being human, understanding how we work together, how to feed personalities together, have a high degree of tolerance, be committed to the work. Is quite important, So, and when you bring people from, engineering, from your IT department, from finance, from sales, from marketing, all of these people have different types of personalities, and we have to bring them in one single project, right? So the leadership that is required from the company to get everything aligned is quite important.
Absolutely. Yeah, I mean, they've all got a very different perspective on what the CRM will do for them, and it's important, whoever's running the projects is making sure that their world is looked after, and that they're listened to and understood. Yeah, that's really important.
And then the last bit is about how important it is to have a strategy and a tactical plan. So the vision is a strategy of what we need to achieve over time and how the technology will support the business strategy, but this needs to be delivered, right? So in terms of strategic thinking, the things that we've learned is, you need a governance model of some sort that will give this initiative continuity. Have a vision of how the CRM should deliver value to the business. Create a roadmap that is achievable, that has enough resources and is the right size for the business, and drive the change in the business, right? All that strategic thinking is often missed because there's no methodology behind. So the methodology to drive this forward is extremely important, because, like Marc said before, these projects are very expensive, both in terms of, money paid out, but also in time of the people investing into the business, right? One thing that is very interesting is when we talk about delivering on this plan, the deliver part is where a lot of things go wrong, and this is where I think methodology actually is quite important. The using methodology like Scrum that we were able to use experience with the team. What's your feedback using Agile and Scrum in delivering the project?
Personally, I found it really, really useful. I think that it's quite easy to to pitch the vision to people. You know, you can say, oh yeah, we want this all singing, all dancing system with everything integrated, automations, plugins, this source of truth, 360-degree view of the customer, brilliant, really helpful for everyone in the business. But right, how on earth do we get there? It's going to take a long time. So it's quite overwhelming to think. So if it's all broken down systematically, then people can focus on those sort of short-term deliverables, those little chunks, not just leading up to the kind of the go live of the system, but particularly once it's live, because it won't be the finished article when it's live, and your users will start to request changes. They might not like something here. You realize, well, hold on, this seemed good in the test environment, but doesn't really work in the real world. So lots of tweaks and changes would need to be made. And the Agile approach is great because it breaks everything down. You've got lots of visibility into what's coming in the next month, up to 7 months in advance. You can add new features and ideas to the development list. So I think for the end users, your CRM users, it's a really great way to see what's down the line, and certainly to feel that they are listened to and valued, that their opinion is valued. So yeah, we're very useful.
And also, this works for you to report upwards, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, when the big boss says, right, what's going on? How's the system looking? You've got a quite a clearly defined sort of set of responses for them to say, well, we're going to be doing this on this date, and 3 months will be live with this feature, or whatever it is. So you can certainly explain to the more senior folks where you are and what's coming next.
Yeah, you know where things are. When you have a plan, it's being executed, you're able to collect more requirements, put them into the overall product vision, deliver or change your priorities, maybe something back.
Yeah, they'll change quite a lot, I imagine. The business perspectives will change, and the board might say, right, we're going to focus on this. So boom, that jumps the queue, and you have to be agile to be able to react and push this new feature through the queue before everything else.
So what we know is in a lot of CRM projects, when things go live, people forget that there is quite a lot of work to do afterwards to keep tweaking the system, to optimize it for the organization. So having a methodology, both in terms of a transformational methodology that includes DevOps and Agile, is super important, to get this going. And this is a complex, specifically when projects are complex technologically, where there is a lot of integrations, a lot of data, a lot of functionality updates. This is particularly important. So it's one of the learnings, deploying with speed and quality is extremely important to keep the momentum going in the implementations, right? So the 5 things that we've learned, don't focus on the software. Most CRM applications are out there can deliver on what you need. Focus more on business outputs, business outcomes, and drive that in the strategy of the project. It's all about understanding the business, but the customer should always be at the center of design. So if you want to deliver value to the customer, the user experience, and the executive team, you need quality data. Data is one of the biggest challenges we have to deliver a good customer experience. And it's all about the user experience, right? So user adoption is extremely important. There needs to be a plan for organizational change and adoption that supports the delivery of the CRM initiative over time. There's no I in CRM. People can contribute from every part of the business. Sometimes the people that are on the front line of the business are the ones that really know what can improve the business. Collecting their feedback and incorporating it into the plan, and then build on a vision and have a tactical delivery methodology that will help you deliver with speed and quality, right? And those are the key 5 strategic learnings we get out of here. So where are we today? Can you share a little bit of what's going on, and where you were able to get to?
In terms of my experience, I think that you have your plan, your roadmap, but it's going to change. And hypothetically, if you were acquired 2/3 of the way through your journey, you may have to start again and rebuild a new system. But all the work that you've potentially done is not in vain, because I think that the data, the process has been developed already. I mean, Ion had a different CRM system to the one we built at Acuris, so it was a little bit right. Does this feel like we've just wasted 2 years building a whole system? But I think that a lot of the prep we're doing was invaluable in rolling out a new instance. Don't feel if you've been acquired that all that work is in vain, because it will be useful.
CRM often means is not a destination, is a road to be traveled, right? And it's a constant effort of aligning the customer operations to the requirements of the business. These last 18 months are proof that the environment changes so quickly that for businesses to keep up with it, they need methodology, they need agile teams working behind the systems. They need organizational change, the right people behind the business operations, right? So we need to be ready for that. In the case of redk, we've been working with several different technologies, and like Marc said before, it's irrelevant of the software that you use. It's more about how you implement it, what is the right thing for you, and applying these learnings into the next phase of the organization's evolution. I believe, Marc, you're moving on to new fields. Thank you very much for sharing your expertise today. Hopefully everything we've done together is useful in your next stages. And thank you everybody for joining. We've done 3 minutes over time. I hope we're not taking too much of your time, and I hope it's been useful. So thank you everybody. We're gonna make the recording available on our platform, so stay in touch. I'm probably gonna get in touch with the people who attended the session. Feel free to contact us as well. We're here to help anybody that is in this journey. And thank you very much again, Marc, for sharing with us.
My pleasure. Thank you, Hideki. Thanks, everyone.
Take care.
Bye-bye.